Good morning, guys. Welcome to another episode of As the Leader Grows podcast. I am your host, Ken Joslin. Man, I've got a super duper special treat. I've got my good friend Rebecca's on with me today, a narcissist negotiation expert, attorney, YouTube sensation. We're sitting here chatting off air, and I'm like, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking. Because everything you're sharing, I want our audience to be able to hear. Guys, listen, there are very few people. I get to hang around some amazing people. There are very few people that I get to spend time with. And when I watch them do what they do, I'm like, they are right where God has them. They're doing exactly what they were created to do. Rebecca, you're one of those people, girl. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's been a crazy week, but such a good week. You know, I always say I used to hate 90% of my day, and now I love 90% of my day. Even though I had a very, very successful career as, a high net worth divorce litigation attorney, I still it was such a drag, being with people who were unhappy all day long and, working. I always say I was a bitch for 12 hours a day. That's what I used to do. I was a very high paid bitch for 12
What was
hours.
that? So let's stop. So we're going to get into your book. We're going to get into all the stuff you're doing now. What was the switch? What was the switch from bitch to not being a bitch? What was the, well, you said you hated 90% of your day. Now you love it. What was the moment? Where was the transformation?
Well, it wasn't like a on and off switch, but basically during COVID, I started on YouTube talking about my experience with a business partner who happened to be a covert narcissist. We moved out to LA a few years ago, and because I wanted to make a change into doing more entrepreneurial things. And in one of those entrepreneurial endeavors, I ended up with a narcissistic business partner who was a covert narcissist, a female. And this was after I had had a very, very highly successful career as an attorney. And I tell people that, I've been named best lawyer in America by US News. I've had, I was AV rated by Martindale Hubble. I'm 10 out of 10 Avvo rated, all of these things as an attorney. So, I tell people that because narcissists don't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attach themselves to you because you have so much. And, they have the ability to make you feel like nothing within a few months,
So you say that. So when you got in business, obviously you're a badass when it comes to being an attorney. You're one of the top, litigating divorce attorneys in the country. But when you got in business with this individual, what were some of the signs that you saw that were happening? And what are some of the things our audience can look for to know when they're dealing with someone, whether it be a partner, whether it be a partner in life, whether it be a business partner, whether it be a friend relationship, whatever that looks like? What are some things that they can look for to know, I'm dealing with a narcissist?
Yeah. So, they start off very, very charming. All of them do. All of them come on very strongly, very, very charming. And one of the things that they do is they use mirror neurons to actually mirror you to become exactly what you want them to be. So they come on very, very strongly at the beginning, and it's oh my gosh, the stars have aligned, and where have you been all my life? And whether it's professional or personal, by the way, I've got everything you need to be exactly the person that you've never seen before. And they make you feel like you are the most amazing, incredible thing that they've ever, come across. And it's so strong. It's, 100 emails a day, 100 texts a day, and it was the same thing with this particular business partner. I had already started something, and this person came along and was like, listen, if you make me a partner, I can bring in all of this. I've got all these contacts. I've got all these skills. I can, make it so much better for you. Make me a partner in this thing. Put my name on it. And it wasn't really something I wanted to do, but she just came on so strongly and was so charming that I I went against my own
Your
gut,
gut told you no, and you still did it.
and I did it. And I
Mm.
which I would never do again, by the way. But I went ahead and did it. And then within almost right away, and this is what they do, they lock you in. They
Mhm.
lock you in, and then almost right away, you start to see red flags. In
So
my
what were
case,
some of the first what were some of the first red flags you saw that are going to really
yeah.
be other people can look for?
So, in my case, it was a covert narcissist. So covert narcissists aren't, overt narcissists are the ones that you think of that I call the garden variety narcissists. They go around telling everybody how great they are. They demand the best tables in the restaurant. They are much more boasting, bragging. I kind of only ever thought narcissists were that kind of a narcissist. A passive aggressive covert narcissist tends to be, under the radar. Everybody thinks they're wonderful. Everybody thinks they're great, but they do more passive aggressive things. So it was, yeah, I will take care of these things for the business. I'll write the business plan. I'll do this. I'll do that. And then they're not doing them,
Mm.
and so you end up sort of having to go after them, but they're still not doing it. And then all of a sudden it's, inadvertently leaving your name off of emails.
Mm.
And then they're, meeting with people and, oh, I thought I put your name on that email. Oh, how did that happen? Oh, and it's sort of this plausible deniability. I didn't mean that, and they feign innocence, they feign naivete,
Mm.
right? But it's very passive aggressive. And those are the sort of things that they start to do. And they just kind of make you feel less than in this sort of passive aggressive way.
So what were some of the things? What were some of the things when you saw those things happening, Rebecca? What were some of the things that you started to like internalize and like go, okay, this isn't right. Something's wrong. What did you do to kind of bring change about, or really to point out, hey, this behavior is not normal.
Well, I mean, where it started to get for me was like the money, like there were situations where, you know, she would like oh, I had to put money in my bank account because I didn't know how to run the transaction to put it in the business
Mm.
bank
Business
account.
account. Right.
And I have to talk to my accountant to figure out how to put it back into the business account. And I'd be like, that really doesn't make any sense. It would have just as easily gone into the business account, and then 2 months later, why still has it still not gone into the business account? Things like that. And so that's where it really started to like get where I knew things were not good. That was not right for me.
Well, if you had to do like in that specific thing right there, when you're seeing these red flags, if Rebecca's own could do that all over again, what would you have done different than you did?
I would have gotten out of it way sooner, way sooner. But, I felt like, oh, a lot of other people, we had mutual friends, other
Mm.
people, I didn't want to make a ripple effect. I didn't want to um, upset apple carts. And so I let things go on a lot longer than I should have.
Mm.
But, in hindsight, I should have just cut it off as soon as I saw that there was an issue.
Wow. And so you're walking through all of these different relationships and things in your life. You're learning what narcissists are and what to look for, what the red flags are.
Well, especially
When did
because I was the supply. I
mm.
was the name brand. I was the one who was bringing in the business. I was the one that, you know, the person was attached to,
Mhm,
right?
mhm. So what was the moment in your life when you went, I want to help other people identify narcissistic behavior in relationships, and I'm gonna start a YouTube channel because your YouTube channel literally went viral almost from day one. What caused you to want to be able to do that? Like go from being this high profile divorce attorney, one of the best in the country, to you know what? I'm really going to change my life mission into helping people deal with narcissistic behavior in their relationships.
Yeah, it wasn't really a decision. It kind of almost found me in some ways.
Mm,
And it was sort of this confluence of events because honestly, I had been speaking on negotiation in general for like 20 years. That's sort of how I built my practice because nobody really wanted to hear about divorce, so I built this talk on negotiation. And
mhm,
so I always say that I've spoken on negotiation to every Rotary from Sarasota down to Marco Island, to every, women's group, every Hadassah, you name it, I've spoken on it, because that's how I built my practice, right?
mm,
And so all the way to I ended up being the keynote speaker on negotiation to the American Bar Association. So long before I was a
mm,
YouTuber, that was really kind of my thing. And I
mhm,
actually wrote a book, Negotiate Like You Matter. Robert Shapiro wrote the foreword for that. And that's kind of all been eclipsed by this whole narcissism thing, actually.
right.
But what happened was I started learning about YouTube and kind of figuring out, and I was learning about funnels. I started uh, following Russell Brunson.
Mhm,
And I thought what I was going to do is actually build courses around negotiation in general. And my first videos were on, if you look back early on in like the fall of 2019, I have these videos on how to get a pay raise,
mhm,
clothing color psychology in uh, negotiation. And I always joke that the only people that were watching were my mom and her church friends.
right.
It was like I would get like 30 views. My mom would be like, I had all my church friends watch,
Let me
you
let me
know.
let me stop you right there. I want you to speak to the one thing really quick before we go forward. A lot of people don't start whatever it is they feel like they're going to do, whatever impact, whatever voice they have to be able to speak into the world, whatever it is. They don't start because it's not perfect or it's not good enough. When I see your facial expression, your countenance changes when you talk about those first videos because you're like, same thing with me. The first time I got in front of an audience, so it was terrible, and
Terrible.
it took time. Speak to that, Rebecca. Speak to just go with what you have in your heart.
Yeah. I just got on YouTube and I felt so awkward. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna turn on my camera and I'm gonna get on here and I'm talking to this thing. I'm sitting in this room by myself. It seems so stupid, but I'm gonna just do this thing. And I really didn't know what I was doing. But I thought, well, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot because I knew that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, owned by the first largest search engine in the
Mm,
world, which is Google. And
mm,
so I knew that that was going to be the way to lead to these funnels.
mm,
And I was learning about how to build funnels and how to do landing pages and how to, the whole thing. And so I knew that I wanted to learn the SEO algorithm of YouTube. And so I started talking about negotiation.
mm.
And I was teaching myself how to use keywords everywhere, how to do TubeBuddy, the whole thing. And, so I'm half Chinese and half German. So I always joke I have no fun genes whatsoever. It's like if I'm learning this
I've
stuff,
I've hung out, I've hung out with you before. You do have some fun genes.
so I was like, I'm learning this stuff. So, so that's what I did. And so then in January of 2020, I did one video on how to negotiate with a narcissist. And if you look at that first one, it had this massive hit. And it was like 800 views or something. And I thought, okay, that's the thing. So I built a course on that called Slay Your Negotiation with a Narcissist, which stands for strategy, leverage, anticipate, and you. And I actually got the intellectual property on the word slay, by the way. I own that word. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go live with that course on March 11th of 2020. I had no idea what was going to happen in the world, nothing. And I thought I'm going to do like 8 more videos on that. It was an experiment. It was literally an experiment. And I had 300 subscribers on YouTube in January of 2020, literally 300. I had nothing, zero. And I went live March 11th of 2020 with a webinar called The 3 Must-Have Secrets to Communicating with a Narcissist, which is the same evergreen webinar that I use today. And that's how I started. And that course has made me millions, literally millions. And I still use that webinar. That evergreen webinar makes me over 7 figures a year now.
So what was it when you did that and you started to see, because I know you didn't do it just for the financial gain. You really did, because you wanted to make a difference. You wanted to you wanted to help people.
That course, to me, I see it as a service. It is a $500 course that tells people how to organize their documentation for their lawyer. It gives them questions for vetting lawyers. It shows them how to go find a lawyer. It includes a 5-page packet to give to their lawyers so that the lawyers don't spin their wheels in dealing with high conflict narcissistic people. It is literally, it's less than 1 hour of an attorney's time. It built by me. It shows them how to document, how to create leverage. It has more than 40 examples of leverage. It saves them money. To me, it is a service in the world. Seriously. I believe that with all of my heart.
The one thing I love about you is I love your heart. You can come across as that divorce attorney sometimes, but just being able to get time with you and watching you and listening to you and hearing your heart that you have for the people. How surprised were you that it took off the way that it took off?
Yeah. So I sit here today, it's like just over 3 years later, and I have 40 million views on YouTube. And I have about close to 400,000 subscribers. And I just launched my Master High Conflict Negotiation certification training this week. I didn't even put it out on my social media. I only put it to my list. I have 200,000 on my email list, and I have about 120,000 in my Facebook group. And I have, hundreds of calls booked with my sales team. And, I have the best team, seriously, on the planet. I love my team. I cannot tell you how much. My COO was TD Jakes' COO for 4 years, and he is the best. I cannot tell you, I'm so grateful for the people that I attract into my life. I have the best friends. I was
going to tell you, there's a reason you're attracting those people. I remember you and I had a conversation at my Create conference back in January about hiring your COO.
Yes.
Yes. You had just made that hire.
Yeah, I think he had just started at that point. Yes.
Yeah, you just made that hire, and just to listen to you and watch you and seeing your countenance change when you talk about your team versus dealing with narcissists, your whole countenance completely changes.
Yeah. And I have a lot of the same close friends. Like Amberly is one of my best friends.
Yeah, Catherine Gordon just texted me. She goes, "Oh, I see you're going live with Rebecca."
Oh, Catherine is one of my dearest and nearest. She's one of my best friends too.
Yeah, her and John will be with us at Create in a couple of weeks.
Yes, they're both Texas, two of my best friends. Yeah,
they're fantastic human beings. Talk about your book.
Yes,
you've got a book out. You got a copy of it right there?
No, well, it's not. I don't have a physical copy of it.
Oh, you don't have them yet?
No, but a lot of great things are happening with that book, and a lot of great PR is going to be happening with it. So It's called Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. Chris Voss wrote the foreword for it. And it is, the Bible for how to negotiate with a narcissist. And, one of the things that I learned in my research is that narcissists actually don't think like regular, reasonable people. Something happened to narcissists during their childhood. And so what happens is that, for all of us, actually, when we're faced with trauma or potential trauma, we go into fight or flight mode, right? And when that happens, our brains emit chemicals, our brains emit hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, things like that. We want to, we get prepared to fight or flee, fight or flight, right? And when that happens to children, the same thing happens, right? Fight or flight. But when that happens continuously, it causes an arrested development. It causes damage to the brain. It causes damage to the limbic system part of the brain. And so while the rest of the brain in children continues to develop, that limbic system part of the brain, that emotional center of the brain does not. And it causes something that we call narcissistic injury. And so when narcissists are presented with stimuli in their environment that causes them to feel like they need to go back into survival mode, whether we think it's rational or reasonable or not, then that narcissistic injury gets triggered. And they sometimes they don't even necessarily even remember what they have done during that period of time. Sometimes it even causes something that, is narcissistic rage. And they're not rational or reasonable during that period of time. They're not. And sometimes they even will take themselves down to take you down. And so we cannot negotiate with people like that in the same way that we negotiate with somebody who's rational or reasonable, because they're not looking for a rational end. We think, well, of course they want to save attorney's fees. Of course they want to get to something that's reasonable. Of course they're looking for an end. That's not true. They're also looking to manipulate you. They're also looking to see you squirm. They're also looking to just play the game. That's why they continue to move goalposts, things like that.
Is one of the things you see in narcissistic behavior, people that like have victim mentality, like, is that something that's prevalent in that? And does that victim mentality come from the same place?
Yeah.
You're talking about that from that trauma?
Sure, absolutely. Of course. Yeah.
And then so if you're in a relationship with somebody like what you just defined, let's take it, you're in a partnership, you're married, or you're involved in a partnership or relationship with somebody else, a romantic relationship, and you're in a relationship like that. What's some of the first things you should do?
Well, the way I say it is you have to take it in baby steps, right? Because for some people, it's just too overwhelming to, people go, well, you just have to leave. You have to get out. And for some people, they just feel paralyzed. They feel, hopeless sometimes, or they feel like the other person just will always win, or they always get their way, or there's going to be backlash or whatever. And they just feel like I can't, get past all of that. So I always say, if you want to completely turn this around, you want to course correct, that think of it in 3 steps. So I say, step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. So for that step 1, don't run, you create boundaries. And that first boundary may not even be a physical boundary sometimes. Sometimes that first boundary might be just a verbal boundary. It might just be, I am going to decide today that you're going to speak to me with respect.
Mm.
And that's going to be my boundary going forward, and sometimes, one of the ways that you can come at it is, instead of going back at the person with anger, you can disarm a narcissist by saying things like, come at them with almost like naive bewilderment, like, I don't understand, can you clarify what you're
Mm.
saying?
Mm.
I can you tell me more about that? Or what you're saying is this. I think what I'm hearing you say is that, something like that, because it just makes them sort of, explain. And it
Right.
also helps you not be so angry, right?
Is there a way when you're sharing that with somebody like that, Rebecca, to where the narcissist may have that aha moment where they're like, because I know you mentioned sometimes they don't even realize what they're doing because of past trauma. Is there a certain way you can communicate that kind of helps them have that aha moment and kind of break free from, oh wow, I can't believe I'm acting this way?
I mean, I don't know that they're ever going to have an aha moment of, geez, I'm an asshole or whatever, but they might have an aha moment of just being stunned for a moment
Mm.
and realizing, what, maybe I need to just be disarmed here for a
Hmm.
second,
Hmm.
you know. And you just always have the right to just say, this approach is not working for me,
Hmm.
and we can resume this conversation at another time. You just always have that right to draw that boundary. And the other thing that I suggest that people do sometimes is just start to pretend like you're reporting the news and start looking at the person almost as an observer, almost as a third party. I can see that you're angry. I can see that you're upset. you know um we can resume this later. It's almost take yourself out of the situation. So, that would be a really good first step for people, because not to personalize it, you're almost sort of putting it back on the other person.
Hmm.
Because remember that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally. If people feel good about themselves, they treat people well. If people don't feel good about themselves, they treat people poorly. It has
So,
nothing to do with
so is
you.
that the reason most people stay in narcissistic relationships? Is because they just don't really believe themselves or see their own worth or value. So they just consistently let that person treat
Oh,
them
I
or,
mean,
or
I
talk
think
to
that
them.
there's definitely a lot of times trauma bonding going on. I mean, I think that, there's a study out of Stanford by a guy named Robert Sapolsky, who did this study on monkeys. And it was where these monkeys would receive a reward for doing something good. And when they got this reward every single time, and they knew when they were going to be getting the reward, it was nothing happened in their brain. But
Mm.
when they were going to be getting this reward intermittently, then the dopamine levels in their brain for the anticipation uh, would rise to the level of cocaine.
Mm.
So, like, if like they didn't know when they were going to be getting it, so it was like this physiological response. And
Mm.
that's what happens with narcissists, because it's so hot and cold with them. Hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. It's so much this love bombing.
Mm.
You're the most amazing thing ever. And then they
Yeah. Mhm.
withhold that affection, and they push pull. They push you all the way to the brink, and then they pull you back. They pull you back to shower you again. And then, it's that hot cold, and that's that. So there's almost a physiological addiction to them as well.
So you walk through the three responses that you said just a minute ago to when you're dealing with a narcissist. Because I love how you said you don't walk away.
Oh, what I call my baby steps. Yeah. So I say step one to course correct. So the baby steps, what I say are step one, don't run. Step two, make that U-turn. Step three, break free. So, and then, I have a little mini course that I give for $27 for people. I call my power switch course. For people for that. It's just, which people can get at grabmypower.com if they want, but it's just a little sort of baby steps. So, step one, don't run. Step two, make a U-turn, where they start to talk, where they start to present offers, where they start to, it's all within the course of the SLAY methodology, strategy, leverage, anticipate, and where they start to, okay, now I feel strong enough to do this part. Now I feel strong enough to do that part, and then step three is finally break free. Step three is finally like, okay, I can see this person and they have no effect on me whatsoever.
No, I love that. Well, Rebecca, tell me real quick, book is coming out when? When's your release date on the book?
October 3rd. So, but if they go to slaythebully.com, they can actually get early access to the manuscript. They get access to my private launch team. They get a masterclass. They get a workbook, all kinds of really, really super cool things. So slaythebully.com, that's where they go. And they get, early access to the whole manuscript now. So they don't even have to wait till October 3rd. So
I'm excited for you there. Best place to follow you and connect with you would be?
Well, YouTube, of course. We release, brand new videos there every single day. Instagram at Rebecca Zung. And of course, I'm on TikTok, all that stuff too. But, those are probably the best places.
Well, listen, I said this earlier, we talked about a little bit off air. When I watch you do what you're doing, every time I'm like, this human is exactly where she's supposed to be. And I love, even when you talked about your team earlier, I love how your countenance changed. I love how excited you got about your team and what you guys are doing to be able to make a difference. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really, really, I love, helping people. I really am excited about the impact that we're making on people's lives. I mean, the testimonials that we get every day are, that's our why.
I tell people all the time, fulfillment. I don't care how many zeros you have on your bank account, how many commas are in your bank account. When you have true, authentic fulfillment and you lay your head down on the pillow every night, there is absolutely nothing in the world like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the testimonials come in every single day, and that's our why.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that.
Guys, go check her out. Go check her out. Rebecca Zung. Rebecca Zung on Instagram, slaythebully.com. Go check that out. We'll list all that stuff here in the show notes. And as always, thanks for joining us for another episode of As the Leader Grows. I am your host, Ken Joslin. Listen, we are a couple weeks away from Create Conference in Dallas, Texas, with some of our good friends that we just talked about. Randy Garn will be there. Brendan Bouchard will be there. Catherine Gordon, John Gordon, Erwin McManus. Some amazing, amazing people as we spend 2.5 days walking through our core 5: faith, health, relationships, business, and finances. Make sure, go visit Rebecca, follow her, hit her YouTube channel up. Guys, there is so much information for you. I don't care what relationship you're in, whether it be a romantic partnership, business relationship, friendship relationship. I mean, go check out what she's talking about. Will help you identify really having the right people and the healthy people in your life. And as always, this podcast has helped you. Hit subscribe, share it, post it on Instagram, tag Rebecca and myself, and we'll share that with you. Give you a little love from my followers. Rebecca, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. So fun.
Love you, girl.